Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another exciting Max Business Workshop. Savvy Steve here. Hope you are fantastic, and if you're tuning in and you're still completing the program, congratulations for working hard on that. And obviously if at any time you need help, then you know you can reach out. And if you have completed the program already, it's great to have you back listening and taking advantage of the ongoing learning, the lifetime education that we offer to you. So great to be able to chat to you. And today's workshop is titled 13 Reasons Why Businesses Fail. Not a lucky number. Now I chose that because number 13 is not a lucky number according to myth. And there are 13 reasons. These are 13 good reasons, but there's also a whole lot more reasons, and each one of these reasons has branches that go off on it, and so almost the number of reasons that businesses fail is probably a factor of 3 or 4 times that. But these ones are the most common ones, and the ones that trap many businesses. And the unfortunate reality is that a very, very high percentage of small businesses fail, and they often fail very early on, sometimes in that initial 6-month, 3 to 6 month period, or even up to a year. The business isn't able to become financially successful, to reach break even, and to survive that startup period. And often, because they are small businesses, you never hear about them. The doors just close, and there was somebody in that space, in that building, the day before when you walk past, but today there isn't one. Or alternatively, there might even be a sign hanging on the door saying under new management, with lots of stars and bright colors, and you think that that successful business that was there yesterday was sold to someone else, and now that's under new management. But often, in fact, the truth behind that is that that small business failed, and these new people came along and took advantage of that and purchased the business with a view to injecting their own expertise and ability and money to make it successful. I don't want you to be scared by the fact that a high percentage of small businesses fail. I'd rather think that you get inspired by that, because that's an opportunity to not be one of those statistics, to understand the reasons why and ensure that you take steps to ensure your success by making sure that you don't fall into those traps. So look at this as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to make sure you do things right and give yourself the very, very best chance of success. So what we're going to do is we're going to rip into them. There's 13 of them in total, and let's start with reason number 1. Often it starts with what we call a flawed idea. Fundamentally, the idea just wasn't going to work, and that could be the case for a number of reasons. Sometimes people have great ideas that they get excited about and they get inspired by, but the reality is the idea is fundamentally flawed, and it could be flawed for a whole host of different reasons. It could be that the opportunity is too early, the market's not yet ready for it, the idea that you have is just a little bit ahead of its time, and the consumer just might not be ready for it. Alternatively, you could be too late because it's already being done, and it's already being done extremely well, and therefore the opportunities to enter the market and be competitive are very, very difficult. It could be that the idea is so specialized that the target market is so small, and therefore the number of potential clients and the money that you need to kind of have to charge each of those clients for the service or the product that you're going to deliver, it just doesn't work, just doesn't make sense. And that can be quite challenging. It doesn't mean that you can't reshape the idea doesn't mean that you can't repackage the idea, doesn't mean you can't delay the commencement of the idea or delay the start of the business to fit when the market is there and the market is ready. And if we take, for an example, that might be a good example there, it might be you are planning on setting up a personal training studio in a new area that was being developed into residential land that was going to target young families, and young families represented the mothers and fathers of young families represented your target market. There is a scenario where you may be too early, that the subdivision hasn't yet started, and so all it is at the moment is bare land, but there's a little bit of space there in one of the initial little commercial developments that they did in advance of building the residential homes. Now, there's a potential argument that if you go in there, you just might be too early because the people aren't there yet, your clients aren't there yet, and it might be 6 months, 12 months, or 2 years before there's sufficient number of people in that specific location to meet the needs of your business. If you deferred it for 6 months or 12 months and then went ahead, or secured the opportunity to go ahead at that time, it might be perfect timing because the development's already started and the houses are being built and families are starting to live there, and you're in there, the first cab off the rank, delivering the product to the client. Or you might be too late because you left it a little bit longer and someone else got in there into that space before you and set up a fantastic little studio and are really doing their marketing and whatnot well. And for you now to break into that market might be challenging or more difficult than it would be to pursue another idea. So, there is a reality. What you have to do is when you come up with an idea, you have to be sure that you're able to stop, to step back and objectively analyze, is it a good opportunity? Is it the right opportunity for you? Am I too early? Am I too late? Is the target market that I want to reach out to, are they sufficiently represented in this location for me to be able to build a business that's going to give me the financial outcomes that I want? And don't get swept along by the idea. Don't get carried away with the idea. Have the ability to stop, to step back and think and objectively analyze it. And then if you believe in it, then move forward to the next stage of the process. And that leads me to reason number 2. Reason number 2 is there's no business plan. And I love this quote: nothing, it seems, went according to plan. Who are we kidding? Because there never was a plan. And that's the reality. The vast majority of businesses don't have a business plan, and I would say, with rare exceptions, businesses that fail didn't have a business plan. And so therefore there was no real framework for the startup of the business, the development of the business to meet the needs in that particular target market. There was no thought around how the business would be structured, how it would be financed, how it would be managed, how it would be delivered, how you'd reach out to your clients and find your clients. The business plan is like a blueprint that you follow to give you the best chance of achieving success. It covers all of those key elements, and if you follow that plan, you're far more likely to end up where you want to than if you have no plan and you just go by the seat of the pants. No plan is like a road to nowhere. You're going to end up somewhere, but the probability is it's going to be somewhere where you didn't really want to end up. Now, following a plan doesn't absolutely 100% categorically guarantee you success, but it puts you in the best position to be able to achieve that. And you can't anticipate everything, but when you're rolling out your business in accordance with your plan and you're so in tune with what you're trying to achieve, you will understand what's happening. You'll understand if you're hitting a few roadblocks or a few challenges, you'll be able to change direction because you'll know that the plan that you've got is not quite right or it's not quite hitting the mark as you want, because you're comparing it to what you're trying to achieve. Whereas if you've got no plan, you've got nothing to compare it with, so you just carry on blindly and ultimately you're going to end up in trouble, almost guaranteed. Almost guaranteed. Now, very closely linked to that is no financial plan. Now, there is no question that the financial plan forms part of the business plan, but I wanted to single that out separately because at the end of the day, the function of a business is to make money, to make sufficient profit to give the shareholder or the owner of that business the outcomes they want in financial terms. Now, it's up to the individual owner to decide what those financial outcomes are, and one owner's expectations may be much, much higher than another's expectations, and that just represents, the difference in individuals, difference in values, difference in expectations. But ultimately, a business has to be able to meet its financial obligations and deliver to the owner, deliver to the shareholder a return on their investment and the income that they want to be able to enjoy the lifestyle that they seek. And so the financial plan needs to be very clear. It needs to reflect the product that you want to deliver. It needs to reflect the target market that you want to target. It needs to represent the demographics of that target market, the structure of the target market, the financial resources of the target market, and the number of, in the case of a personal trainer, the number of sessions that you want to deliver each week, the cost or the price that you want the client to invest in you each time, and then ultimately how much is it going to cost to deliver that business. And you therefore have a set of financial goals that set out the income and the expected expenses and the resulting profit from that business, and that you work towards achieving that, recognizing too that the startup phase of any new business is the most difficult, because you're going from potentially having no clients to needing to have or doing no sessions each week to needing to be doing, let's say, 20 sessions per week in order to reach break even, and then everything past break even becomes profit to the business. Now, how are you going to find those 20 clients or the 20 sessions? How long is it going to take you to get there? And how are you going to meet the costs of the business, including your cost, your time, the money that you need to pay the rent, put food on the table, send your children to school, or whatever the case may be? Where's that money going to come from until you reach that break-even point? And so the financial plan brings a real picture to your business plan in terms of how the numbers will evolve over that initial startup period and the rest of the first year and into subsequent years, and will tell you how much capital or how much startup money that you need to have available to ensure that the business can achieve success. There are so many businesses that from the outset are so inadequately funded or so inadequately supported by the owner of the business by putting money into it or by an investor, that they're trying to achieve success with a noose around their neck. And that's linked into a little bit into one of the next risks. So you've got to have a really clear and robust financial plan, and not a dream sheet, because you can put numbers into any spreadsheet that are going to make it look good and give you a great feeling, but if they're nonsense numbers and they don't meet any common sense test, or they're grossly over optimistic in terms of the income, and you don't adequately provide for all the expenses that you will incur in running the business, then that's just stupidity. That's not a financial plan, that's a financial load of nonsense. Okay, so the financial plan that you put in place needs to be realistic and achievable. The next key area of failure is poor advice. And this is a little bit about your circle of influence, but your circle of influence in the context more of the business. And there's a great quote there from the very, very successful and wealthy Warren Buffett that says, "It's good to learn from your mistakes. It's better to learn from other people's mistakes." And so what that's really saying is that surround yourself with people who have had success, and these people we often call business mentors or business coaches, people in your circle of influence who can, through their own experience and knowledge, help you be successful, and they have an interest in helping you to be successful. They want you to be successful, and they'll support you in that process. Don't take advantage of them, because no one likes to be taken advantage of, but seek them out, seek help, and make sure that you always appropriately appreciate and recognize the support and guidance that they give. And the best way to do that is to listen to them and then to take their advice and act on their advice. Okay. Surround yourself with the dreamers and the doers and the believers and thinkers, but most of all, surround yourself with those who see greatness within you even when you don't see it yourself. These people, if they're part of your circle of influence, will help you find the confidence that you need to find the success that you want, because they'll push you and they'll support you on that way, not the complete opposite, and pull you back and hold you back and tell you what you can't do. They'll tell you what you can do. So that's reason number 5. Reason number 6 is a little bit linked back into the financial plan. It's no money, and this is where the noose around the neck. Every business, with very rare exceptions, requires the owner of the business or a financial supporter of that business, often what we call the investor, or a bank, to put some money into the business to help it get started, and then to help it through that startup period. When I say get started, the initial capital that's required to get the business off the ground, to get it prepared and ready to see the first customer, and then the money that's required to meet the expenses of the business while the income grows to a point where it reaches break even, which is a point at which all those expenses are covered by the income, and then it moves beyond that into profit, which is when the income exceeds the expenses. Now, it's very, very difficult to set your business up properly right from day one in terms of meeting the needs of your customers if you don't put any money in it. It's also then very difficult to survive once you start seeing customers if your expenses exceed your income. And the reality is, a lot of the businesses that fail put themselves in that position. They were setting themselves up for failure, not setting themselves up for success. It was absolutely inevitable in the vast majority of the cases where that occurred that the business would fail. The business would simply run out of money. And when a business runs out of money and can't pay its expenses, then the reality of that's when the business closes. That's when the door's shut. That's when the person that you saw there today is no longer there tomorrow. If you go to the gym and the personal trainer that you thought was doing really, really well was there yesterday but not there today, the high probability is that they fell into this trap or one of the many other traps. So it's important that you understand how much money your business needs to get to the start line, and then once it's to the start line, how much more money it needs until it reaches that break-even point. Now, a business will reach its break-even point more quickly based upon how quickly you can grow the number of clients who are giving you money. And so that links into how important the marketing activities and the sales activities of the business are. If you can get lots of customers really quickly giving you lots of money, then clearly you're going to reach your break-even point much more quickly, and therefore you'll need less capital or less money in the business to get you to that point. If you're really slow at getting customers and you're really slow at getting them to keep coming and keep paying you money, and you undersell yourself in terms of undervalue yourself, then you're making it harder for you to reach that break-even point. It's going to take you longer to get to the point where your income meets your expenses, and therefore if it's a longer period to that point, that means you have to have more money, more of your own money, more of the investors' money, more of the bank's money in your business in order to survive. And the vast majority, as I say, of businesses that fail ultimately fail because they run out of money. Okay. Now, businesses that are making profit, they don't run out of money unless there is another dynamic going on in the business, which I'll touch on a little bit shortly. But fundamentally, if a business is making profit and that profit is being well looked after, you're never going to go out of business. That's lesson number 6. Reason number 7, poor marketing. At the end of the day, you can't sell a secret and find customers, if those customers don't even know you exist. And therefore, irrespective of what your business is and where it is, you have to reach out to the target market, or your target market. You have to reach out to those customers in the location or in the demographic location that the majority of those customers will come, and you have to share your story. You have to tell them about you and what you do and how you do it, and you have to tell them about it in such a way that gets them excited and gets them interest, and that creates awareness of who you are and what you do, and why, if and when they're ready for your service, that they should pick you. Now, that requires a marketing plan, and your marketing plan will always form part of your business plan, but it's such an important part of the business that it becomes critical to success. Now, if you start a business and do no marketing, how's anyone going to know about you? How's anyone going to find out about you? How are you ever going to get any customers unless they happen to trip over you, or trip over a crack in the street outside your studio, depending on where you're starting your small business. And so at the end of the day, you have to reach out and find those customers. There's a whole host of different ways you can do that, right from the, this is all about money and all about budget, right the way from, TV through to all the different other forms of, older style media, radio, etc., to the more modern, more current ways of reaching out through Google and through Facebook activity and Snapchat and YouTube, etc., and reaching out and finding your target market through those mediums, all the way through to some of the old school stuff, which is the newspaper, the bigger newspaper, the little local community newspapers, magazines, and then all the way into the fat mail, where you do mail drops into people's letterboxes with a really great message from you that sparks their interest in you. And that's something that you keep doing and doing and doing on an ongoing basis. So when they're ready, your name has spontaneous brand awareness to them. They think you, because you've constantly been telling them about you and what you do. But all of that whole spectrum of activity ultimately is about getting customers, because without any customers giving you money, you don't have a business, because you're not going to have any income. Okay? So marketing needs to become a focus. It needs to be something that you embrace. It needs to be something that you do. It needs to be constant, and it needs to be ongoing. It doesn't have to be expensive. But certain types of mediums are more expensive than others. And obviously you would expect a more expensive way of marketing would deliver you better outcomes. That would be the expectation that you would have. So there is a link between how much you spend and what you get, providing you're sensible in the way you spend it. But ultimately, you've got to do it. You've got to do something. Okay? Because clearly, as I said, you can't sell a secret. So that's reason number 7, poor marketing. Reason number 8 is even poorer sales. There are so many businesses that have failed because they might actually have a reasonable idea, and they've got a reasonable business plan, and they've got their finances reasonably well sorted, and they do some reasonably good marketing, and their phone rings or they get email inquiry. But they're so poor in the way they handle that inquiry. They're so slow in how they respond, and they respond in a way that's not professional, or is not as professional as it could be. They don't treat that inquiry with the urgency and the value that it deserves. And then when they make contact with the person, they try and flog their product rather than and talk about what their product is, and talk rather than ask questions and find out about the prospective client and what the prospective client's pains and pleasures are, which is, obviously what you have learned or are learning in the program, and then go through a process which that uncovers their pain, that shows them why you are the solution to that pain, and then asks them to buy your product, or you, because that's what they're buying. They're buying you as the solution to their pain, and you get them in, and you create a evangelist by delivering the outcomes that you promised in terms of that process. And at the end of the day, sales is a process. It's a process of communication primarily, but you're following a process which is leading the prospect, which came from your marketing, on a journey from that first point of contact with you into becoming a paying, and ideally long-term paying client. Okay, so it's pointless having lots of inquiry if you waste it in all the different ways that it can be wasted through having a poor sales process or being a poor salesperson, and ultimately turning that inquiry into no sales. And that just becomes, really, really, really pointless, and ultimately means you're not going to achieve your client targets. So that's reason number 8. Alrighty, reason number 9. No systems. Okay. Most businesses, in my experience, don't have any systems. The system that they have is in the owner's head, and therefore the systems get reinvented or modified or slightly changed every time they're delivered. And every experience, everything that happens in the business, all the way through, not just the stuff that happens with a client, it's all the stuff that happens in managing the business and doing all the things that have to be done in order to make a business successful. And some of these things are little things like opening up the studio or closing down the studio, cleaning the studio, all the way through to all of the interactions that take place with customers should be entirely systemized, because that's what leads to consistency. Whereas if you have no systems, it will be, as it says in the quote there, consistently inconsistent. Consistently inconsistent. Don't say that really quickly a whole lot of times. But it becomes disorganized chaos, and it's all made up as you go along. And as a result, every single experience the customer has is different. And it's almost impossible to scale up your business, or it's very difficult to scale up your business, because when you bring people on into your team to help you grow your business, how do you teach them? How do you train them? Rather than having resources that are available to them for them to be able to access, to learn how to do things and to guide them through the way your business works, so that they can, excuse me, they can deliver the business and the standards to the same level, if not better, than what you do. And that's what leads, and if you have that, then you can deliver consistency. But most businesses that fail, in fact, the vast majority of all businesses, small businesses, really have no systems. They may do a lot of things the same from one day to the next, but that's just because it's the owner's habit, because that's what they do. But the reality is there will always be something a little bit different, and the client will experience just something a little bit different each time. So ultimately, reason number 9 why small businesses fail is that they have no systems, and that ultimately will lead to bad outcomes. Reason number 10, bad money management. Okay, I said earlier on that once you are at a point where your income exceeds your expenses and you're in profit, then it's unlikely that your business will fail. Well, yes, but what happens then is bad money management. That's bad money management around, in that sense, around the profit, or what's left over after your expenses, because the money that's in the bank is not necessarily all yours. Some of the money that's in the bank, for example, might belong to the tax department in the form of income tax and in the form of GST. Some of the money that's in your bank account may be needed will be needed to meet certain other expenses that are coming either each month or on an ongoing basis, maybe once every year or once every 6 months. Some of the money that's in your bank account, you'll need to reinvest in your business because sometimes equipment and that needs to be replaced or upgraded because stuff wears out over time. Some of the money that's in your business and your bank account may be needed to repay the bank. The money that the bank's lent you may be required to repay the investor who might have invested some money in your business to get you to a certain point. Now, if you've gone and spent all that money and you have gone and taken it out and thought just because there was cash in the bank that you could go and spend that, and you bought some new clothes or a new watch, or even bigger, a new car, or gone out and splashed it on a house, but you couldn't afford to do that, you're suddenly going to be in a situation where your business is unable to meet its financial obligations. It may not be able to pay its GST, it may not be able to pay its income tax, it may not be able to meet the other obligations that it has. And so that's what's called bad money management. Profit in business is great, but the money that's in the bank account is not always available for the owner of the business to spend in whatever way they want. Okay, and this is where having good people around you, a good accountant that helps you understand those obligations is important. And so the mentality of just spending what's there is a trap that so many small businesses fall into, particularly the tax trap. The tax and the GST are probably the single biggest area where small businesses get into trouble, and the creditor, or the person that ultimately brings the business to its knees, is the tax department, because they want the GST or the income tax that should have been paid. And when it doesn't get paid, they get a little bit grumpy and ultimately can result in the business being closed down. So poor money management or bad money management is reason number 10. Reason number 11. I think I might have got out of order, but that's okay. Overpromise and underdeliver. Huge number of businesses are guilty of this, and ultimately what that results in is the customers vote with their feet. If you overpromise something and then underdeliver, the clients are going to ultimately say goodbye. You're promising them a certain quality of product or a certain quality of service, and you don't deliver it, or alternatively you deliver it inconsistently, or you deliver it in a manner that slowly quality is declining over time. The promise that you made is no longer being delivered, and when that happens, people just fundamentally don't like that. People don't feeling like they're being taken advantage of. So the mentality you should have is to underpromise and overdeliver, and do that every single time, and then the clients won't be saying goodbye, they'll be clients for life. But unfortunately and regrettably, most businesses fall into this trap. They overpromise in order to get the client in the first place, and then they underdeliver, and that's why clients leave. And that's called turnover of clients or attrition of clients. So when that's occurring, you have to keep marketing more and more and more, and selling more and more and more. Whereas if you're able to attract people through your marketing and then sell to them really effectively, and then deliver your promise or more than your promise all the time, your client base will grow, and it will grow to a point where you may choose to put a cap on it. You may not want any more clients for a period of time, which allows you to slow your marketing activity or slow your marketing spend, because you don't need as much inquiry to make the sales, because you're not losing clients. And so there is a huge benefit, not only in financial terms, but in other ways in your business, when you have high client retention, and often that's driven by meeting and exceeding the promise that you make. But the truth is, one huge reason why small businesses fail is they overpromise and underdeliver, and the clients get pissed off and they say goodbye, they vote with their feet. So that's reason number 11. Reason number 12, the tax and the GST trap, which I've already touched on in terms of bad money management. that by far and away, I'm guessing, an educated guess because I've been around a fair while, but I would think 70% of business failures are part of that is that they run out of money, which is ultimately every single business. But in behind all that is that the tax department and the GST has not been paid, and when they come wanting for it to be paid, you have no ability to pay it, and it ultimately leads to the business being put into liquidation or it being closed down, because the tax department, as rightly as it should, is obligated to try and pursue collection of those taxes, because that's what makes the country be able to operate. That's what pays for hospitals and roads and schools, etc., etc. And so therefore you need to understand that every single dollar that goes into your bank account, a portion of that dollar needs to be put aside for future tax and future GST. Or every 100, doesn't matter whether it's $100 or $10,000, a portion of every single dollar is to meet your tax obligations and your GST obligations into the future, and you have to plan for that. You have to, and if you're not disciplined around money, you have to put that aside. So when you need to pay it, you can pay it. And again, this links back into the quality of your circle of influence, having a great accountant in your business, part of your business mastermind group. And if you do that and you lean on them and you learn this, you won't fall into that trap. And I can tell you, the tax department, you're never going to win a fight with the tax department. So best you not seek one out. Okay. That's reason number 12. Reason number 13, this is the last one, but it's a big one, and it sort of has its tentacles into all of the earlier ones, and that's laziness and complacency. Laziness is a secret ingredient that goes into failure, but it's only kept a secret from the person who fails. There's always a reason why you haven't got a business plan. There's always a reason why you haven't got a financial plan. There's always a reason why you haven't got a marketing plan. There's always a reason why you haven't got enough clients. And more often than not, it comes back to fundamental laziness. Now, an interesting example, often, I've had situations where I'll say to someone, "Oh, how many sessions are you doing at the moment?" Doing 30 sessions a week. Fantastic. So how many sessions are you did you budget to do, or are you planning to do? 50 sessions a week. Oh, okay. So you're aiming to do 50 and you're currently doing 30. That, you're doing well at 30, but there's quite a gap there. That's 20 sessions. So you're doing, as I understand, you're doing 30-minute sessions. So that's 10 hours of sessions that you don't currently have. So given that you didn't do that, you're not doing those 10 hours of sessions at the moment. Tell me, how much marketing did you do last week? And 99.9999% of the time, if you ask someone that, they'll look at you and they'll go, there'll be this stunned silence. And the upshot is they did none. Or if they did some, they might have done half an hour. And the reality is suddenly you can stay trapped in this scenario where they realize that they're committing to do an extra 50 sessions, but they're only doing 30. And those 10 hours where they could have been out marketing and trying to find clients, they were sitting on their bum doing nothing. And as a consequence, the probability of them achieving those or finding those extra 10 hours of clients is about zero. Okay, and that's just fundamentally lazy. Why haven't you paid your GST? Oh, I haven't got around to it, because you're lazy and you haven't spent the time to put in place the systems and the procedures and managing your diary in such a way to ensure that you get the GST done and filed with the tax department when it's due. Every single thing that's not done in a business ultimately comes back pretty much to being to laziness. It might be because there's a lack of systems, but a lack of systems is because of laziness, because they were never put in place. Okay? And that might sound harsh, but it's the truth, and the truth often hurts. Complacency is about just because things are going well now doesn't mean they can suddenly go horribly wrong. And complacency creeps in when we get a little bit of success, we get a little bit cocky, and we think, oh, I don't have to do that now. Oh, that'll be okay. I won't need to do that, and I won't need to do that. and actually complacency and laziness are linked in a strange sort of a way. You've managed to get to a point where you're achieving an element of success and going forward, but suddenly and you haven't been lazy to that point, but suddenly laziness smacks you on the back of the head, and you in the form of complacency, and before you know it, some of the things that you're supposed to be doing aren't being done. The marketing that you needed to keep going to make sure that you've always got a little, a presence in the market, and you're always bringing in new clients, because you will lose a client from time to time, is not being done. You didn't stay on top of your money, and you haven't paid some bills on time, and you've incurred some overdue fees, or even worse, you've got someone chasing you through the debt collector. Laziness and complacency are linked, and they breed off each other, and ultimately they're a huge contributor to failure in the first instance, and then often in businesses that have been going for a period of time, that have had a degree of success, then going into a downward spiral and ultimately failing, and that's the complacency element. And so, two dangerous traps: laziness and complacency, and that's the 13th reason why small businesses fail. One final thought, which is turning it into positive: success. A successful man is one who can lay a firm foundation with the bricks others have thrown at him. And I like this drawing that you see, because success is a step-by-step thing. Very, very few businesses enjoy overnight success. There are some, there's no question. Someone comes up with produces a widget that revolutionizes the world in some way, shape, or form, and they go from being, struggling, come up with an ingenious idea that transforms an industry or transforms a community or whatever, and they can become financially successful overnight. But I can assure you, they are very, very rare. Most small businesses are built on hard work over a long period of time, step by step by step by step. And you keep having to keep taking those steps forward all the time, in order not just to ensure more success, just also to ensure that you retain the level of success that you've enjoyed to that point. So hopefully today, and I've raced through those 13 reasons, just quickly: a flawed idea, no business plan, no financial plan, poor advice, no money, poor marketing, even poorer sales, no systems, bad money management, overpromise and underdeliver, tax and GST traps, and laziness and complacency. They are 13 of the most significant reasons why small businesses fail. And they are so easily avoidable, they're so easily overcome, that to fall into one of those mistakes is just, is plain stupidity. So take advantage of those learning, and these are universally known facts, and don't be one of the victims of making that mistake. Learn from the mistakes that thousands and thousands and 10,000s, hundreds of thousands, millions of small businesses around the world have made before you. Don't fall into that trap. Plan for success. Work hard, and that'll be the outcome that you achieve. Take advantage of the mentoring that's available from Kerry Rowe and myself. We won't always, I personally, I'll be straight up with you, and if at the end of the day I think you need to make some changes in order to achieve success, then I'll tell you. That's part of sometimes your business coaches or your mentors have to be your unreasonable friend. They have to challenge you. They have to make you confront the fact that you're not doing the things that you need to do in order to enjoy the success that you deserve. But we'll also be the first ones there to pat you on the back and congratulate you on the success that you've earned when you earn it. Okay, guys, have a fantastic day, and I'll look forward to the next business workshop, and look forward to chatting again soon.